everyone, welcome to this session. In the first module, we have taken an overview of nature and current trends in psychological counseling. This module is about fundamental principles of counseling process. These principles are important for the counselor to develop a right approach towards client's problems and towards himself as a counselor. This module has three parts. The first part discusses two principles. Those are the principle of confidentiality and the principles of individuality. But before we start, let us watch this video first.
Hi, Mansi.
Yeah,
Are you free?
yeah, sure. Have a seat.
Thank you. Do you have some free time? Like, I wanted to have a word with you.
Yes, anything.
I mean, I really don't know if I should ask you this question or not, but like, you are my senior.
Come on, Tanvi. You don't need to have any formalities. If you have anything to ask me, just go ahead.
So, I wanted to discuss a case. Like, Manali, my cousin. I suppose she came for counseling.
Yeah, Manali, right. She came for career counseling.
So, not just she, but her whole family is confused. And I don't know, but she has stopped talking to her parents, and my uncle and auntie are really worried about it. Do you think she can manage?
No, actually, she's a very mature girl. We had a very good conversation the other day. I think she will be fine.
And what did she tell you about her parents?
I see why you're calling me your senior now.
Tell me something.
Look, Tanvi, we are both counselors. And you know that I have to follow some principles and ethics. See, if you want to discuss the case, I can let you in on few things, but that's all. And now that I have seen your worry, I have to tell you that you shouldn't get influenced by your uncle and auntie. Actually, if they want, I can guide them about anything. Manali does have some disagreements with her parents, but that's all I can tell you. After all, if she were to find out that I have told you about this, she would lose her faith in me. And I can't have that. So, I hope you understand.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm sorry. Thank you so much, but you know, I'm still a trainee, and that is why I called you my mentor. So, I need self-worth. Thank you so much.
It's all right.
Was Manasi correct? Please answer honestly. And yes, the answer is, in this video, Manasi, the senior counselor, is correct. Confidentiality is the first principle of the whole counseling process. When the client approaches the counselor, his first expectation is that his information and the identity should be kept confidential. This is the basic requirement of any client. Like confidentiality, there are 5 other principles which are the crux of counseling process and which cater various psychological needs of the client. These principles are approaches and rules that every counselor has to follow. Counseling is the process where human beings are involved, and counselor is also a human being. Hence, there is a lot of scope for human errors. These principles help to minimize the errors. They tell counselors what to perceive and what not to perceive, which then leads to the objectivity in analyzing the case. When counselor reach out for the counseling, he or she expects that there should be someone who will listen to me without having any prejudice and preconception, who can guide me irrespective of my age, education, profession, culture, religion, or any thought process. By learning these principles by heart, the counselor can remain unbiased in all stages of counseling. Let us look at these principles one by one. Now, in this video, we have seen that the senior counselor Manasi is not disclosing the details of the case even to her co-counselor. Manasi is giving the gist or the summary of the discussion she had with the client, but not the details. Let us understand the reason. Now, let us think, why basically people approach the counselor? Because they feel that the counselor is a person who is not only an expert, but who is indifferent to the client's life. The counselor will never tell anyone about these problems. He will not be the subject of gossip anywhere. Another meaning of confidentiality principle is that the counselor never discloses the identity of the client. His or her name, address and other demographic details are also kept confidential. Even if the counselor wants to write a book on his or her cases, these details are often changed. We read many books, many counseling stories in magazines or in newspapers, but we always find one sentence in the beginning, and that is, the name and the other details are changed for confidentiality purpose. One more point we need to remember here in this regard, that if counselor wants to refer the case to any doctor or any other counselor or psychiatrist, then obviously the real name of the client is to be disclosed, but not the details of his or her problems. Every doctor has his own method of history taking. The counselor tells the general details of the case. For example, if the counselor has referred the case to a psychiatrist, then how counselor will inform the psychiatrist? He will say that a person is my client and we are doing sessions regarding maybe his career or marital issues or personal issues. Now he wants to seek help for his anxiety and related issues. And for this reason, I am sending A to you. If you want any specific details, then we can have discussion afterwards. Many times, teachers and doctors refer the case to the counselor, and we have to give them necessary information, that is feedback about the person. While giving this feedback, we have to be very brief and general, and even for that, we have to take the consent of the client. What does it mean? That without the consent of any client, we cannot provide his identity or information to anyone. Now, in case of minors, I mean children, we have to keep his or her parents in loop with required information. Now, this principle of confidentiality helps counselor to understand the second principle, that is individuality. There are two different meanings to the principle of individuality. The first meaning is every individual is unique, so every client is unique. The counselor has to treat every client differently and should not generalize the therapy or technique. Yes, counselors can categorize the problems as career counseling issues, marital counseling issues, anxiety or phobia or relationship issues, but every client has to be looked with a fresh and new perspective. We always think that few problems are more serious and some are easy to handle, but for the client, his issue is important, and obviously he expects from the counselor that the counselor should see to it very sincerely and seriously. To execute this principle, the counselor has to update himself and has to learn new, creative and innovative techniques or methods. Another meaning to the principle of individuality is the respect for the client. Every counselor has to respect to the dignity of the person and his identity. The clients are from various socio-economic status, culture, religions, academic backgrounds, professional atmosphere. The counselor has to treat every client with respect and care. The counselor may have personal opinions about different cultures, but the client is a person who needs help. And yes, even if the client needs help, it does not mean that he is helpless. The person approaches the counselor, that means the client has overcome the basic anxiety of approaching someone for his problems. So, the counselor has to appreciate his efforts to contact to the counselor for help. It creates positive environment and encouragement to the client to open up his mind. Now, let us summarize this part. The fundamental principles are the real crux of counseling process. Every counselor has to train himself or herself by understanding these principles by heart. The principle of confidentiality and individuality are the first principles which develop right approach toward counseling process. Counseling process in a way is a non-disclosure agreement between the counselor and the counselee, that is client. The client expects full attention to his or her issues irrespective of its intensity or seriousness. The counselor has to serve these two purposes without fail. Thank you.